Africa is currently divided between 54 different independent countries, but what would happen if all of these countries united today to form a united African state? What would Africa the country look like in the world, and how powerful of a country would it actually be? For starters, Africa is huge and covers over 20% of all the land on Earth, making it about 70% of the same size as all of Asia, or about 3 times the size of all of Europe. 1.2 billion people currently live in Africa, or about 16% of the entire global population. So interestingly, a united African state would actually have a smaller population than both India and China, but this wouldn't be the case for very long, since Africa is currently experiencing the largest population boom in the world. The population of the continent has doubled since just 1990, and the continent is expected to surpass the populations of both India and China in the same year, 2022. According to official UN estimates, the population of Africa is expected to reach a massive 4.4 billion people by the end of the 21st century and comprise 39% of the global population. This enormous demographic shift in the future will ensure that a united African state has a dominant position in the world, but it comes with several challenges. The population of Africa currently is the youngest in the world, with a median age of just 19.7 years old compared to the global average of 30.4 years old. Literacy rates are also low, with only 64% of the population being considered literate, but this varies between regions. In Libya, for example, the literacy rate is very high at 94.2%, while in South Sudan it is very low at only 27%. HIV infection rates in the continent would also pose a severe challenge to the United Africa, as 11% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa is currently infected with the disease. In addition to these challenges, a united African state would also struggle with the extreme diversity on the continent. Africa is the most linguistically and ethnically diverse continent on the planet, where somewhere between 1,250 and 3,000 languages are spoken. Because of this, Africa is the most multilingual place in the world, where many people speak at least 2 African languages and 1 additional European language. A situation similar to South Africa, where there are 11 official languages, would probably have to exist. The most common languages are Arabic, spoken by about 17% of the population, mostly in North Africa, Swahili by about 10% located mostly in Southeast Africa, Berber by 5%, and Hausa by another 5%. English, French, and Portuguese are very common lingua francas understood by a large amount of people, where English is understood by 13% of the population, French close behind at 11.5%, and Portuguese by 3%. All of these languages would probably have official status as well as several others. There are hundreds if not thousands of different ethnic groups that exist in Africa. We're used to seeing this map to represent the continent, but a more accurate map may be this one, which shows how incredibly diverse the continent really is. Because of this, it's almost impossible to give figures for exact ethnic populations in the continent, but no one single group would even have over an 8% share of the total population. In terms of religions, here is a religious map of the continent. Christians and Muslims would be almost perfectly divided, with each faith claiming about 47% of the continent's population. Traditional African religions would represent about 10% of the population, and this adds to more than 100% because several people hold mixed beliefs. About a final 2% of the population would be atheist or non-religious. Next, we have a map of where the 10 largest cities on the continent are located. The biggest city, Lagos in Nigeria, has a greater population than all of Romania combined. But despite this, it probably wouldn't be the capital city. I predict that the capital city would probably be located here in Ethiopia at Addis Ababa. This is because an organization called the African Union already exists, similar in some ways to the European Union in Europe. The African Union's headquarters are already located in Addis Ababa, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa is also headquartered here. Addis Ababa is often already called the political capital of Africa, so it would make sense to agree that the city would serve as the capital city of the United Continent as well. Cairo and Johannesburg would probably be the largest financial centers of the United Africa and serve very important roles as well. Africa is incredibly rich in natural resources, possessing 90% of the world's platinum, 50% of its gold, 50% of its diamonds, and another 33% of its uranium. Despite this, however, it remains the poorest continent on the planet. The United African State would have a GDP of 2.39 trillion US dollars, making it only the 7th largest economy in the world. It would barely beat out India's economy, but remain behind those of France, the United Kingdom, and Germany. The GDP per capita of Africa would only be $1,992 per year, but that figure isn't totally accurate of how crushing the poverty on the continent actually is because of rampant government corruption. According to the World Bank, poverty is defined as living under $1.25 per day. Based on that, 50% of the population of sub-Saharan Africa would be living in poverty, with the average poor person on the continent living on less than 70 cents per day. This picture kind of highlights how severe this problem is, especially when you compare it to other continents. But Africa has a lot of room to grow. The continent is projected to be the quickest growing region in the world in the future, and her GDP is expected to finally overtake France and the United Kingdom by 2023, but will still remain behind Germany then. All things considered though, Africa certainly has the potential, if it united, to become a superpower by the close of the 21st century. It would have a massive population to fuel a massive army and a potentially huge economy that could one day rival the rest of the world. With one flag, Africa the country would be a united continent, optimistically looking forward to what the future would bring for her. Leave your comments below about how you